Hey there, how are you? Live on YouTube, baby. That's right, I'm coming at you on a Wednesday. This is normally when I have my cup of verbal tea, but today I'm having a little cold fojito instead. I want to talk to you about how to stop whining, complaining, bitching, and moaning, or otherwise wallowing in self-pity. Sounds very negative, right? Well, here's the positive spin, my friend. As I started doing interviews for this new book that I'm releasing, Time to Rise, I was meeting with people who have overcome tremendous challenges. I thought my little overcoming depression and anxiety was like a big deal. No, I have really met some people who are truly coming back, bouncing back stronger than ever after dealing with kinds of issues that would make most people crumble. Okay, would make me probably crumble. So if you know anyone who suffers from what I call the PLOMS, P-L-O-M-S, which is poor little old me syndrome, then please share this video with them because I want to help them get free, at least even just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? So if that's any issue that you're dealing with, I'd love to hear about it. And I'm not saying that you don't have justifiable reasons for feeling bad about yourself. I'm just saying there comes a point where you gotta rise up. Hey, Sarah Kate. I'm learning this new little platform. Okay, it's not a little platform. YouTube is huge. Hello, Larry Jones, Victoria Gannon. Hello, cheers to you. So, here's the setup, if you will. And Sarah Kate, you say it's your first time watching YouTube live. All right, I think I've only probably seen one thing live on YouTube before. And I think it was like a concert or something. So yeah, there you go. You could watch it on Facebook, but yeah, I don't think it really works the same way. Not at all, actually. I've just checked it over on the Facebook side. Not the same. Hello, Yosra. Idris, hello. Thank you for being here. And Shamikia Goldsmith. Shamikia. You'll have to tell me how to pronounce your name. Anyway, we don't have a super stable connection. I'm not going to stay on here long, but I wanted to talk to you about this because, again, I was interacting with some people and just a few minutes ago on Skype, and you know, this woman that I've known for years, okay, shout out to Karen. Hello again. Hey, Randy. Good to have you over here. I was talking to Karen about just kind of getting caught up, and without giving away any of her secrets or her story, she is somebody who has inspired me because when I met her, she was dealing with a lot of chemical sensitivities, okay, Shamika, thank you, Miss Goldsmith, I got you. So she was dealing with a lot of chemical sensitivities, and I was working with someone at Discovery Channel who was in a documentary, and this documentary was about Edgar Allan Poe. And there were people that believed that Edgar Allan Poe was poisoned by carbon monoxide. Now, most people just think about carbon monoxide poisoning and it leads to death. But if you live, so if you're, you know, in a place with gas lighting or a stove that was faulty, that was leaking gas, and you get carbon monoxide poisoning and you live, it can create something called the Muses Syndrome, M-U-S-E-S, which stands for Multisensory Sensitivity Syndrome, a mouthful. But this multisensory sensitivity syndrome means all of your senses are heightened. The sense of sight, smell, taste, hearing, touch, all of it, such that if you have this syndrome, everything annoys you. So even just, you know how sometimes the tags on the back of your clothes can itch and scratch? Imagine that times 1,000. Or you know how it is if you're around bright lights and it really starts to make your head hurt, especially people with migraines. imagine that times 1,000. And, or smells. Imagine that, you know, somebody walks in with some really outrageously way too much perfume and it starts to set you off. Or being in the airplane and the air conditioning, that recycled air sets off your nose or your allergies or your asthma. Imagine that times 1,000. So imagine that everything sets you off. And it sets you off, not just that you feel like, oh, I can't stand that sound or that sight or that smell or that taste or whatever, but it literally causes the immune system to kick you on your butt, such that many of these people with carbon monoxide poisoning or multisensory sensitivity syndrome, they end up bedridden, which means they don't go to work, they don't go to church, they don't go to school. They find it really difficult to be out in the world, let alone interacting with their families. And so I started working with this guy, Albert Donnet, who's an environmental toxicologist at Johns Hopkins and was doing all this stuff. And he did this research on the hair of Edgar Allan Poe to prove that Edgar was probably CO poisoned when he had his in-city home, the city home in Baltimore, which had gas lighting. And if you ever go back and read The Telltale Heart, for all the Americans out there who had to read this, or I'm sure the French had to. Salut, Sarah. I saw that you're on. Edgar Allan Poe, The Telltale Heart, you know, where he talks about the beating of this heart under the floorboards and his senses were acute. But imagine if you had to deal with that on the daily and that it literally caused your immune system to shut you down so that you had no energy, that you couldn't get up out of bed, couldn't go to work, that you became totally dependent on someone. Can you even imagine that, what that would be like? If you've ever had the flu or something and you were knocked on your butt for a while, you know that it's temporary. But what if it kept going on and on? Well, this is what's happened as I've met with some of these people who have gone through health challenges. And the Time to Rise book is not just about health challenges. It's about anyone who's overcome anything that was confining them or limiting their life expression. But the last series of conversations I've had with people with stress-related illness and problems with toxicity from dental fillings and Lyme disease, and a very dear friend of mine who's dealing with Borrelia, which is another tick disease that comes from ticks. If you can imagine that when these disease processes get kicked into the body and lodge themselves so that they trigger your immune system, that is like not a fun way to go through life. And it would be almost accepted for someone to really go into a pity party, like, woe is me, my life sucks, I can't work, I've lost my job, I've lost my friends, I've lost everything. But what excuse holds you back if you don't have those issues? This is what's been boggling my mind. Because as I was talking with Karen, I was like, you know, I would probably be a wimp. I would probably be moaning and complaining if I had these kinds of issues. And yet, she's out there putting out positivity to the world. And every little bit of energy she has, she's pouring it into being positive, furthering her education, loving on her dogs. Dog lovers unite. Sorry, Sarah Kate. We love kitty cats in pictures because I'm allergic to cats. But it's just really struck me that some people will deal with health challenges for years, and maybe they're trying to get past them. But there are two camps of people. Hey, Sarah, love to the kitties. There are two camps of people. There are these people who get hit by a health or a physical challenge or even a financial challenge, and it knocks them on their butt, and they stay down. It somehow affects them psychologically and mentally, such that they think that their whole worth has been tanked, you know? And we know people like that who go through a bankruptcy or a divorce or some other challenge, and it just knocks them out. And then there are people that rise up, that somehow they find the strength in them. Hey, Camilla. They find the strength to pick themselves up, to get back out there. What separates these two people? Well, there's one thing that I want to just bring to your attention, and I'd love to hear any of your comments. When I wrote in my first book about the PLOMS, P-L-O-M-S, poor little old me syndrome, the one thing that I noticed was this sense that if you actually get some benefit out of being sick, in the medical jargon, we call that secondary gains. So for example, if you were sick and oh, there's Vaughn, he might start cracking his corny jokes. No, but seriously, if you were sick, let's say the first time you were sick as a child, your mom feels terrible seeing her little baby sick in bed. And so what do we moms do? We shower you with love. We want to hug you. We cuddle with you. We read you stories. We bring you food in bed. Sometimes, you might get sweet treats. You might get ice cream. Or you get out of school and you don't have to do your chores. Like you gain something even though you were sick. Well, if you start to like those secondary gains, some people will just milk it. They'll stay sick, or they'll play sick, that's what we call malingering, and they'll just keep it going. So those people, I mean, God bless them, because we've all been there. I mean, we've all been there. But when you milk it and you allow your whole life to be centered around your illness, and I'm not talking about an illness that you can't overcome. I'm talking about if you are truly ill and you wish you were better and you're doing everything. I'm not talking about that. I send love and compassion. And for anyone who knows me, I spend a lot of my time and resources helping people who are sick, truly sick. But if you decided, it's kind of nice. I don't have to do the dishes. I don't have to take out the trash. I get fed in bed. Every time I'm sick, I get love and attention. Well, if you decide that that identity is safer, easier, more comfortable than the identity that you came to the planet to be, which is maybe, hopefully, kick-ass, out there doing something original with your life, then those are the people that I want to talk to you about, because they've bought into a system of living that I can't get my head around. Now, what allows people to bounce back? Now that's what Time to Rise, that's what this new book is about. It's about showing more stories than just my own. I thank you for those of you who have found that my story inspired you, and my crazy videos and ranting is helping you to rise up. But we're now collecting stories of other people around the world who have also not just had physical or emotional challenges, but other things in life, and they're rising up. So look forward to that book coming out in December. Remember, I'm just getting used to this little chat over here, so I'm going to go back and scroll through your comments. All right. Daddy's boy, man up. If you don't see blood, get back on the court. That's what Vaughn has to say for those people who want to just milk it. And Sarah, ah non, ma mère m'a abandonnée quand j'étais malade. Elle ne voulait pas avoir les microbes. Oh, je rigole, c'est pas une mère, une dame? Ah, okay. I'm sorry. So Sarah was saying that her mom was like, peace out, you sick, I don't want to get any microbes on me. I've been that way too. There are times where I'm like, here, Sienna, here's your food. Don't cough and sneeze on me. Coughing and sneezing is what spreads the microbes. And I'm one of those moms that, you know how some kids, like, they pick their nose, like, in public, like, all the time? I'm one of those moms that as soon as I could see my daughter, like, reaching for a nose, I'd hand her a tissue. Here, would you like a tissue? Yeah, that's what they're for. Clean that stuff out. I don't want it on your fingers and then wiping it on your clothes or wiping it on me. I digress. But Sarah, j'espère que la relation avec ta mère, ça va très très bien, j'espère. Mais bon, des microbes, bon, il y a plein de gens qui ne veulent pas. So Larry was asking where to buy my first book. The first book, The Pennington Plan, 5 Simple Steps for Achieving Vibrant Health, Emotional Well-Being, and Spiritual Growth, is out of print. But you can probably find it online somewhere for like a penny. Stay tuned for the next book, though. I think it'll be much better. You know, we get better with age. We get better with time. I'm on my, almost 11th book now, whether I've contributed a chapter to one or publishing my own. So I'm getting better, I promise you. And so Victoria says, your grandmother would milk it. Yeah, it does happen. So Sarah says, apart from secondary gains, there's something in sickness or bad luck reinforcing our negative life scripts and therefore proving the negative voices in your head to be right. And Ingrid says, my French is cute. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire? C'est pas bon? Bon, peut-être tu es comme ma fille, elle dit, maman, je ne parle pas français. Elle déteste mon accent. Mais bon. So Sarah, yes, I think it does kind of reinforce negative scripts. And that's the thing that's like struck me, because again, it comes, those scripts that Sarah's talking about, if you were, let's bring this into the world of Hollywood and filmmaking. You know, my background working for Discovery Channel and hosting shows in Hollywood. If you were looking at a script, you know, you would see that there were, you know, characteristics about each of the characters, and their script is based on who they are, as in their identity. So if you identify as a sick person, and the characteristics that surround that are, I get to play the pity card and get all sorts of treats, and no, Sarah, je sais que toi, tu avais des vrais problèmes. Maintenant, je comprends mieux. Je comprends mieux maintenant avec le... Ok, je comprends. Je vais expliquer. And thank you, Ingrid, for saying my French is cute. So if you identified with this sickness and that became your identity, then the scripts in your head get written, you know? It's almost like that illness takes on a life of its own. Now, you may have come from spirit world or God or wherever you believe you came from to live out, you know, your destiny on the planet. But instead of you and God being the co-authors and director of your life, this illness came in and took on a life of its own and changed the script and allowed you to start taking on these negative belief patterns. Versus the people that I've been talking to this week and last week who could have done that, but instead they found a way to change those scripts, to say, yeah, it's just an illness, but I'm not defined by it. I'm not making it about my identity. They've chosen to look at it as either with humor. So Camilla, you're asking, how do you do it? Well, that's what this book is about. It's about showing you a multitude of ways of dealing with it. And for some, it's comedy, like they make light of their disease or they make it fun or funny. I know that sounds hard to imagine with a cancer or what have you. Or they make it part of their narrative as a survivor. So many people will call themselves a survivor of breast cancer or a survivor of domestic abuse or whatever, insert terrible thing here. And I have a problem with that too, only because it's still limiting you to something in this earth realm in terms of your identity. I get that being a survivor, you know, Destiny's Child, is a positive kind of thing to say I'm a survivor, which means, you know, I'm strong enough, I've gotten back up. But I still feel like I would just rather see people identify with being an infinite spiritual being and on some other mission, which doesn't mean you couldn't use your survival from that illness or challenge as part of your story going forward to show the world what's possible. Show the world that you can bounce back after being knocked down a number of times. But it all comes back to that script in the head, and for some people it's about the excuses that we allow ourselves to make. And it's funny because just this week, Sienna was thinking about she spent some time with, she's been traveling. We've all been traveling, right? We've been traveling to America. She went to China and Hong Kong and all over the place. So she's getting exposed to all these different people and their way of life. And she said, I'm really glad that you raised me to not whine. And I thought, wait, what? What do you mean? She's like, well, she was around someone who was just like, please, getting all into that whiny voice that some kids do when they really want something. And, I know it well, but I've always found it it just kind of grates on my nerves. So I'm just like, look, if you want something, here's how you ask. Just ask. You don't have to whine. But it really struck me because if we're not really aware of how we are programmed or how we're coming across, then you could stay in these negative patterns and you could just keep going, But I guess what I'm really struck by is why does it take some of us so long to wake up and realize these life patterns that keep going, I could keep blaming everyone else and begging the world to save me, or I can dig deep and find that within myself. Do you know what I'm saying? Is this making sense? I don't know if I'm making sense. Thank you, Alina Hassan. Yeah. How can you help those people getting away from being like that? And Camilla's talking about people who do use their sickness to gain something. Well, in life, my work helping people with addiction and eating disorders. Generally, when you really want to help someone break a bad habit, if you take that away from them, they can feel a sense of lack or longing or neediness or an emptiness. So before you take something away, I say, give them something else. So if someone had an identity that was totally tied up in this poor little old me syndrome, my approach, and this is only one, but my approach would be, let's find the other strengths in that person and build that up. That's what all the great positive psychology research is about. It's about finding your strengths, your character strengths, your values, your virtues, the things that come naturally to you, or even the skills that you've developed, and build on that, build on the positives. But it requires that consciousness and that choice, which reminds me of Sienna's godmother. She's always saying, life is about the choices you make. Plain and simple. And when I kind of woke up to that in my early 30s, it was kind of a revelation in that I realized I could blame everybody out there, right? I could blame society. I could blame the bullies, the racists, the sexist people. I could blame the system. I could blame so many different things. But at the end of the day, and I could blame my parents, but at the end of the day, I'm the one making the choices. Now, sure, as a child, I may not have had the intellectual development or the awareness to know the choices that I was making, but as an adult, everything that you see in your world, your life, your external world, is a result of the choices you have made, consciously or unconsciously. And as scary as it is for many people to own it, to take that responsibility, the ability to respond is accountability at its best. For many people, that's scary, because if you can't blame anybody, if you can't lay back and wait for a handout, that means you do have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, dig deep and find within yourself, through whatever means necessary, the strength and the meaning and the purpose to push and move forward. And that's what my work is about. That's what I'm trying to help people do. So Vaughn says, most sickness is helped when a person comes to the knowledge and action of, I am just sick. Oops. I am just sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired of being sick and tired. And Vaughn says when he worked in substance abuse, the person who was made to come to rehab was not as successful as the person who willfully checked in. And that's so, so, so true. Like, we have to eventually come to the realization that this life is my own. The choices I make, they are for me. Vaughn says the same can be said for entrepreneurs. Absolutely. You know, in business, in life, in love, we are the ones making the choices of how we show up and what we're going to get out of these experiences. So pointing the finger of blame or waiting for a handout, that can only get you so far. And yeah, so I don't know. These are my musings on a Wednesday after having these conversations with people for this book project. And yeah, I hear you, Vaughn. A lot of successful entrepreneurs were sick and tired of working for someone else. And I was one of those. I had somebody recently ask me about interoffice politics and wanted some advice. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I give advice on a lot of stuff, but not that subject, because I could never do it. I was terrible at navigating this interoffice stuff. I just feel like people should operate with integrity and goodness. I know, really naive. But I feel like people should. People should just do the right thing. And I don't want to play any politics, any games, any nonsense to try to get along. And so I'm like, Vaughn, I was one of those entrepreneurs that was like, oh no, I ain't gonna be able to work for nobody for too long. I can do partnerships and collaborations, love it, love that dynamic. But working for someone, that's a challenge for me. I like having the freedom to live my purpose in my own crazy way and do what I'm doing to help people. And, you know, that's just what it is. Yeah, office life, I can't imagine it, right, Sarah? I cannot imagine it. And so I get to work with wonderful people like the lovely Sarah Kate Brandis, who helps me enormously, takes a huge weight off of my little crazy head. But yeah, but my whole, I don't know, life mission is to help people really come to value who they are and know and trust who they are so that they can live as their authentic true self without apology, with boldness, with confidence. And sometimes that means we do have to look at the patterns in our life, the negative, quote unquote, negative things that have happened to us, and find those lessons, because it will continue to repeat. I mean, life can be a very cyclical experience. The same challenges you had in kindergarten, you're gonna have in primary school and middle school and high school and beyond at university, unless you learn to master them, so that the next stage you get to when you see a similar challenge, you know how to handle it and you don't have to be knocked down by it all the time. I mean, ultimately, that's what my work is about. It's about resilience. How do you build up the skills and the resources so that when bad stuff hits you, you don't get completely knocked down and out, you know, down and out for the count. So look out for this next book, Time to Rise. I will be sharing a personal story alongside some amazing and wonderful individuals, including, oh gosh, I should probably have the list nearby so I don't mess up. But Derek Llewellyn-Davies is in the book with us. Solveig Þórarinsdóttir from Iceland, and she's on her way here to hang out with me and some lovely people for our Stories with Soul. It is a life writing workshop that I'm teaching this weekend to help people learn how to tell stories, both in books and on stage. And yeah, it's exciting. So we have Joana Soares from Portugal and Lorena Pleim, I need to know how to pronounce her last name, from Denmark, is joining us. And Mariana Popovic, whom I met, or Popovic, I need to learn how to pronounce her last name, and I will before we get to the marketing phase, who I met at Expert Empires in London. she is sharing a story as well. So Camilla says you just want to shake them up and say, wake up! You do not need to be sick. I'm with you. I'm with you. And that's really what I'm doing in every way possible. I'm trying to shake people and say, wake up. You have the divine power to bounce back and be strong, my friends. So I'm going to keep supporting and trying to lift people up. Sarah says, be you, be yourself, be free, and love yourself and love life. Yes, yes, and yes. And Alina Hassan says, I like that you need to find the lessons in the negative. I always get caught in extremely negative loops every month or so. Very interesting how you have mastered how to persevere through them. Well, mastery might be a strong word, but I am a master at learning. I may not learn as fast as I want to. Some lessons I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I learn this lesson already? But I am definitely someone who believes in pattern recognition. It's a gift that we humans have that some others do not. We have the ability to recognize patterns, but it does require that you're aware and like conscious. So part of just looking over at your life and looking at the things that have happened to you and being honest. What part did I have in this drama versus always looking outside to, you know, who you can point the finger on? It allows you to kind of recognize, well, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, so that you can plan better. You know, that's one of the things that was in my first book, The Pennington Plan. I'm looking around to see if I have a copy of it. I don't know where they are. But in the book, I talk about really looking for the potential pitfalls, which means you have to know yourself. You have to know the things that would trip you up. If binge eating on ice cream or cookies is a possibility for you, don't buy the ice cream or the cookies. Don't have them in the house. You're setting yourself up for failure rather than setting yourself up for success. But to Alina Hassan's point, I wasn't always this clever about, see, now I'm curious. Now I'm looking for the book on my bookshelf over here. I've got all my other books. You know why I don't have the first book? Because every time somebody sees it, they like make fun of me. No, it's not that. That's not why I don't have it there. Although my daughter does frequently make fun of me, like, look at your hair. Like, I don't even look like me. If you get a picture of the first book, it was not a good look. I mean, you know, I tried my best. I thought I was cute. Oh yeah, here it is. In the guest bedroom. What do you think about that? Oops. The Pennington Plan. Oh, that's backwards, isn't it? Sorry, guys. Mirror image on the video. Yeah, not a great look. Well, you can at least look at the look. Hilarious. Yeah, I have no idea what I was just saying. Anyway, sorry. Went off on a little tangent there. I'm allowed to do that. For those of my new YouTube friends, thank you for joining us. My Facebook friends know that I do this. On a Wednesday, I'm allowed to like have a random rant. And yeah, I can do that. Oh, I know, I was responding to you, Saha. So I read a book a few years ago called, what? Best Year Yet, by this woman named Ginny Ditzler, who in the UK, she was teaching executives and stuff about how to make sure you plan your life to have the best year yet. And one of the practices in this system is you ask yourself the same 10 questions at the end of the year or the beginning of the year to set the tone for the upcoming year. And one of the questions is to look at your disappointments. Look over your life or the last 12 months and look for the things that you feel disappointment. And this works for me because one of the emotions that really drives me crazy is regret. I don't like that feeling. In fact, I hate that feeling. That feeling of regret, it's enough to make me It's enough to make me get out of my procrastination mode. So anyway, so one of the things that I would look at doing this system is you look over the last year and really get clear about your regrets or your disappointments. And when you write down the things that you didn't do that you said you were going to do, or the things you wish you had done or done more of, or whatever, you write down these disappointments. And then you get really clear about what do you say about them, meaning what kind of excuses do you come up with the reason why you didn't get it done. But then you go even deeper to really look at what am I doing to limit myself? What am I doing that's contributing to these regrets, these disappointments? And for me, a lot of time it was failing to focus and failing to follow through. You know, I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur. You know, some people say we're ADD entrepreneurs chasing the next shiny object. And I was guilty of that. But as I looked over my disappointments and I looked at what are the excuses that I make and what are the things that I'm contributing that keep allowing me to get tripped up, and then what are the lessons? Like being really rigorous about looking for the lessons so that you recognize the patterns and then you can create a pattern interrupt. So when I catch myself going into one of those patterns, I can say, wait, I know where this ends. This ends in pain, disappointment, regret. And I don't like those feelings. I would rather, in Erica's words, choose the pain of discipline over the pain of regret. And Erica, I would take it to the next level. Do you know what I choose? I choose the joy of discipline. And if you've ever heard me talk about one of my old mentors, the Reverend Jane Howard Feldman, she told me, years ago, and it stuck with me. She said, Andrea, I want you to be a disciple to your higher self. Because I was saying, I just need to be more disciplined. And discipline has like such a negative vibe for so many people, including me. She said, well, if you look at the word discipline, it's like its root is disciple. And we're not trying to get all religious on you. However, if you were a disciple to your higher self, that part of you that wants the best for you, that part of you that's connected to the divine, God, source, that creative energy that came here with a purpose, instead of being a slave to your taste buds, which always just want the next delicious treat, or a slave to Netflixing and chillin', instead becoming a disciple to your higher self, having that sort of discipline set me free. Because then, Erica, it wasn't pain. If I did the stuff that my higher self wanted, it was all pleasure. And hallelujah, finally, that's what I did. So when I unplugged from my high-powered media career in America and even working with certain people here, I shifted to only working with the projects that I enjoy, the people that I enjoy. I don't work with people with whining and complaining and excuses. I work with people who are positive, who have a mission in life, who are really inspired by their heart, who aren't complaining or coming up with excuses. And then all of a sudden, I'm doing the things that I believe my higher self wants to do. And it's fun. It's joy. And so there's no pain in my discipline. It's joy and it's fulfillment. And then I get into the flow because I'm doing what really brings my spirit, my heart, my soul joy. So that is my little idea. My idea worth spreading, sharing. You are welcome, Alina, and you are welcome, Erica. Thank you for being here. Thank you for tuning in to my very first, I think I've tried to go live on YouTube when I was at the airport, but the Wi-Fi was terrible. So this is my first official YouTube live. Ta! Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of it. Thanks for playing along. I generally go live Mondays and Fridays at 3 p.m. here in France, which is 9 a.m. in the Eastern US, 6 a.m. for my folks out in Cali. And then Wednesday is kind of the wild card day. It's the day when I get to do what I call my verbal rant where I rant on anything I want. It doesn't have to be structured. So don't give me some comments about get to the point, stay on point. No, it's my time to do whatever I want. It's Wednesday. No, but I like being connected to you all, and if you have questions, you can send me emails, you can chime in here in the chat, share it with your friends, spread the love, because I want more people to know that you're not alone. There is support here for you. You don't have to stay sick, sad, and miserable. You can live a life of passion. So my friends, it was wonderful to be with you. And yes, Alina, it is 3:30 in the UK, but normally, yeah, it's almost 3:30 in the UK. But normally it's at 3 o'clock for me, 2 o'clock for the UK. Today I was just late because I'm busy. I'm in the midst of doing all these interviews for the book. But I just thought, why not? I will sit down and have a little cup with you. Thank you, Victoria. I'm glad that you're here, glad that you got to tune in. If you have other questions, please chime in. Otherwise, I will see you next time. And just remember, my dear friend, you are a gift to the world. You truly are. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Bye.